All right, man. I'm here with the Ninja. I have an anti-tie thing. You don't wear a noose around your neck. It's not proper.
So sweet.
It's not proper. So I'm here with the Economic Ninja. I feel like an old friend. I haven't even known you that long.
Dude, this is so cool.
Point.
You
Yeah.
have no. I've been so stoked, getting so excited to meet you here, and this is awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool. I have to bombard you with silver questions.
Oh yeah.
Because silver is my most interesting speculation for a couple of reasons. One, the price is suppressed.
Yep.
People are upset about that.
Yep.
I think it's wonderful because I don't have as much as I want to have.
Good point.
So I think it's great.
Yeah.
Two, it's real money.
Okay.
So it's in a declining economy.
Yep.
Silver's good to have. It's just a good backup.
Yes.
And then if we have a renaissance, well, silver's the one material, the raw material you're going to need for electric cars everywhere, AI everywhere, everything, right? So, so it's a hedged bet in my opinion. As if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, it's useful.
Yep.
If everything goes to future new age utopia, it's amazingly useful.
Yep.
The ratio is completely off, and here's a mining ratio, and this is Neumeyer. So Keith Neumeyer, and this is his ratio, and he states that the industry states that 1 to 8, so 1 ounce of gold for every 8 ounces of silver is currently coming out of the ground.
Yep.
Newton claimed a 1 to 15-ish ratio when he figured it out.
Yep.
Historic ratio. He was correct.
Yeah.
Going all the way from US history and even biblical history, we see a 1 to 12 to a 1 to 20 ratio.
Yep.
But today we have a 1 to 70 ratio.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hear people like Jim Rickards saying that gold is going to 15,000 an ounce by 2025.
Yep.
If it is, if it isn't, I think based on the money that they printed, I think gold's got to go a lot higher than that.
Yes.
But let's say 15,000 an ounce, and your ratio comes back in line, say to the historic average of 1 to 20.
Yep.
1 to 12. You have 1,000 ounce silver. Is that correct?
Yeah, but actually, I want to interject something. A lot of people don't talk about this. Keith Neumeyer would say I'm spot on because silver is actually mined at the surface of the earth in the crust.
Right.
And since there's only so much land that so many mines, are working with right now, what happens is they get to a certain level, they just find less and less silver.
Right.
And so so
because like the Greeks took it
exactly
1,000 years ago.
Not only that, to have a primary silver mine is extremely rare. Keith is actually one of the very few primary silver mines on Earth. Because it is literally that hard to find it. So what's interesting is, we've talked about all these historical averages, but that's about to go completely skewed because I think we're going to see a mining average get much worse. So interesting. So yes, we'd have 1,000 ounces. But what's interesting about that is that people, it sounds funny, like you said earlier, I want to go back to the people
So
get upset.
we'd have $1,000 an ounce.
Yeah.
In today's dollars, just speaking in today's dollars, because we don't know what tomorrow's dollars will be.
Yeah, and
Doug Casey says it's a floating abstraction.
Well, and this last year, let's talk about today's dollars. A year ago, silver increased, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, I want to say 36%, something like that. Gold went up pretty substantially too, but that was because of an inflation event that we've seen worldwide because money's been printed out just out of control. So when you talk about today's dollars, we don't know what it's going to be priced in, in the future.
Right.
And that's another thing too that you sort of alluded to is, people look at it as wealth and things like that. And a lot of people go to that, if everything falls apart, that's what we're transacting. It's actually absolutely impossible in my opinion. And the reason why is because right now, only 1/10% of Americans own any precious metal of any type. So for it to be distributed equally to where people could use it as, have it be fungible, it would go up, insanely, just like Bitcoin.
Like the value of it would be ridiculous. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it is my Bitcoin play for this decade. What do you think it is this decade? I think it's silver. Like I think if we're looking back at 2031, I think it's silver.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have people keep walking behind us in the interview. Thanks.
Is this the wife? Is this Mrs.
Yeah,
Ninja?
that was Mrs. Ninja.
That's Mrs. Ninja. She was fast. She was in and out of that frame.
Boom. Yep.
In and out of that frame.
Yeah.
All right. Wrap up on the silver question.
All right.
This guy introduced me to rhodium. I had no idea what rhodium is. Apparently, rhodium is needed in catalytic converters, which I'm an alternative fuel guy, and if you want to have alternative fuels in the diesel world, you can't have catalytic converters if you really want to be on biodiesel. That's a fact.
Yep.
But rhodium went like this. Bitcoin's like this. Rhodium went like this.
Parabolic.
Parabolic.
Well, can we talk about 2006? I think it's a pretty interesting story with rhodium.
Yeah, let's hear about rhodium. Because we have no idea. Rhodium is basically this rare earth metal used in catalytic converters.
Yeah, you can't use was a platinum in a catalytic converter without mixing it with rhodium. Right?
Okay.
Essentially, that's it's a process that they use in it. It's primarily mined in Africa. Russia does, I want to say it's like 15-20% of world mining. But in 2006, they said, you know what, the heck with it, we're not shipping any more out. And we saw rhodium go from half the price of gold, which I believe at that time was $300 an ounce, and it spiked to $10,000 an ounce. And it took about a year and a half. Now it crashed, and I love watching all of the headlines. Rhodium's crashed. And throughout the last 30 years, rhodium sat pretty even with gold, where it was about always worth half the price of gold. Well, when it crashed, even after gold's historic rise, and it was like sitting at $1,200 after gold took off, rhodium crashed to $2,400 an ounce. Now, I love reading the headlines. I'm like, well, is that your idea of a crash? I mean, it used to be half the price of gold. Now it's
still
twice
higher.
as much.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but what happened over time is it started to really tick down, and it sort of got forgotten until last year, and it rose. It was.
It's well like over $13,000.
Yeah, I want to say it hit 30,000 actually just recently. If somebody can
it was
get me
insane.
Yeah,
just drop a chart in the comments.
Yeah,
you got one. I mean, it was it's
huge.
insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said one time to me that you think we might see silver do a rhodium move.
100%.
And a 1-to-1 ratio with gold.
Yes. So the last time silver was 1-for-1, it was when Egypt was ruling the earth. And the reason why it went 1-for-1 is because they always kept a primary, usually 1-for-10, 1-for-8. Sometimes it got to 1-to-6, depending on the money supply. Because silver, was worth less in most people's eyes. But when Egypt was expanding and just blowing the roof off every other civilization on earth, they were getting so much labor in building all of their buildings, structures, and they had to create more money, and they didn't have it. So what they did is they just straight up revalued silver. Yeah, 1-for-1, just like what happened in 1933 with gold.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, so I do believe we're going to see that, but it's because I believe it was in 2015 annual mining supply actually became less than usage. Right. And so right now, we're recording on a cell phone. You physically cannot recover most of that silver in that cell phone.
At the current price.
Exactly.
Because here's the thing with silver is like if it is a 1-to-15 ratio in the Earth's crust, and most of it's on the surface, so 1,000 years ago, Romans are walking around, they're like, oh, it's silver, it's easy to get. Like we don't have backhoes, it's easy to get.
Yeah.
So they collect it, we have it, and then Kodak uses it for film, and then we threw it in landfills 30 years ago, 50 years ago,
exactly,
10 years ago, yesterday.
Yeah, when it was $4 an ounce, who cared?
And we're currently bringing in 1-to-8 as the new supply.
Yep.
But we're using more of it than we're bringing in.
Yeah.
So it creates a short squeeze of the century.
Well, and what's really interesting about that is, let's use Kodak and $4 silver. It was who cared if we threw away all this extra film, the X-ray materials, all that kind of stuff, because it cost more to do it.
Right.
Well, there's always this overshoot. So when you all of a sudden people start to realize, oh crap, this stuff is valuable because the price is rising. It takes so long for companies to ramp up production, to go out.
And, there's a delay.
Yeah, get the machines to do it. Go get the actual raw materials to recycle.
This audience gets that. 100%.
Yeah, and so rhodium overshot super fast last year, and we don't even know where it's going to end up, to be honest with you. Because what I think is going to be really interesting is because with chips crisis, everybody was fleeing and running around looking for sourcing materials, all that stuff, and there was a confusion. I actually think rhodium's going to come down pretty significant, to be honest with you. I wonder if we could actually short that. That'd be
I don't know, but I mean, it sounds like the easiest thing we could do is just go long silver. You literally have physical possession of it.
Yep. Yeah.
And if you go to a mining ratio of 1-to-8, gold is roughly around 2.
Yep.
So we're looking at $400 silver.
Yeah.
If you go to a ratio of 1-to-1, gold's at $2,000, you're looking at $2,000 silver. If we go to the historic norm of that all the fiat dollars in circulation, gold is going to do a full accounting for them at the end of this game.
Yep.
We put gold at minimum base of 15, maybe even 50,000, and if we ratio with gold, we easily, all of those equations bring us $1,000 ounce silver easily.
It does, but let's do this. Let's focus on because it's really awesome to go through these numbers, but that's the one thing that frustrates people, because people get into precious metals and it doesn't moon when they expect it to.
Yeah, it's not gonna. You don't want it to.
So they get
away.
frustrated, and they do either two things: they completely walk away from the investment, not understand how big of a deal it is to be able, and how lucky you are to keep accumulating over time, right? Yeah. Because you go out and do side hustles, you invest in crypto, you get these amazing opportunities where you're able to expand your own money, go buy more silver. What happens is they get frustrated and they either walk away from the investment or they sell it. And then they sell it. I knew a lot of people that had bought silver at the 30s, sold it in the teens, and now are sitting going, with the VIG, you're going, oh my gosh, I'm right back to where
it's
I am.
a long-term play. Like, you're buying it to hold for 7 to 10 years, or just a terrible bad day. Like, just a terrible bad day. Like, you need to loan against it, or you need to,
Well, remember, it's the money of kings. It's the money of kings.
Yeah.
Kings are patient. Kings, a good king or a good leader thinks way far out in advance, and they plan, they anticipate, and then they act. And the thing is if are you an investor? Do you invest like a king, or do you invest like a pauper? Do you have a
100%.
poor man's mentality, or do you want to go for the long game? And do you want to be grateful? Thank you, Lord, I've got more time to go buy more. That's how I felt during the 2018 crypto crunch. So
100%.
Yeah, I know
when things are down, that's when you want to buy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and
100%.
very rarely
all
do people do that.
behaviorally. And just to wrap with you, it's like, you can accidentally find yourself owning hundreds of ounces of silver. My wife and I just did an accounting for our silver holdings, and we're like, oh, that's a lot more than we thought we added recently.
Wow. Yeah,
like it just mistakenly happens. Yeah, because you do a job, you get a couple $100 here, you know it, you're like, oh, I'm gonna pay myself first, put $100 in my wallet, another $100 before you know it, you got 500. You go to your coin store, you get another tube, you go home, you put it in the safe, and you squirrel it away like a squirrel.
Yeah.
And then eventually you just open the thing up, and you're like, oh, there's a lot of metal in there.
Yeah.
Like,
and then I want to remind you too, because I know we've talked about storage and stuff like that, and it's important to have super secure storage. You don't want to leave this stuff just sitting around your house. Some people do keep it in safes, right? Some people, like I know, storage off-site, hidden away where nobody can find it is super smart, right? Because I think that's really
diversifying it too.
Oh yeah,
diversifying your whole pot of gold, if you will.
Yeah.
So all right, so your silver call, you're thinking a 1-to-1.
Yeah, but no clue when.
No idea when.
Zero clue when.
But at some point you're going to see a 1-to-1.
I'm going to be honest with you. I believe that it'll be in my lifetime. I really do.
1-to-1 gold play with silver.
And only strictly because it's not going to be a monetary metal. This is an industrial metal, and people are going to freak out. They're not going to want to give up their solar panels, their batteries, their water filters. I mean, and right now they're inventing new electrics right now based off of silver.
That totally makes sense.
So, and what's crazy is to sit there.
Heaven forbid the silver battery ends up being the solution for these electric cars.
Or the antimicrobial properties. You can't even, there's certain medications right now that you can't live without silver. It's insane.
Yeah. So if it went 1-to-1 at today's rate, you can buy silver for like $35 in your pocket.
Yeah.
And it would go to a 1-to-1, it's basically like $2,000.
Yeah.
So basically trading in $35, holding it for the long run. And it's as though you have the value of $2,000.
Yeah, what's crazy,
people
don't even understand it happens, but they don't understand rhodium and they don't understand crypto. So we've already lived that. We already know what those kind of gains are like. If you haven't lived through the .com phase, you have no idea what it's like to make, 5,000, 10,000%. But we've already experienced that. So now we're on. It's funny. You got crypto and all these exciting things, but then you're like, oh yeah, but there's silver.
Yeah.
And people are like, who cares about that? And you're like, are you kidding?
But the first will be last.
It hasn't moved yet.
The first will be last, and the last will be first.
Oh, amen.
Dude, I think over the next decade, crypto is going to perform, but silver may outperform it on a percentage basis.
All right,
All right, cool. That's the Ninja. Thanks for being on.